Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. This is Marek here. These are Marek's hands. This is Marek's desk, and this is Comics Camp. Great to see you today, or if you're joining us after. This is Comics Camp 2020, week 3. Make sure you're in the right week here. Today is the 22nd, I believe, of June, and we're going to do some live penciling together. Before we get started, this week we're bidding a fond welcome to our new campers. We have a bunch of new camp families from Kimball Jenkins summer camps, and we have some other partner summer camps coming online. So it's great to see everybody coming in and drawing with us this week. And we'll have more about the shape of the week later, but I think we'll get right to work now. I'm double checking to make sure my camera's on, my microphone's all set. Should be good to go. Move these out of the way. So we have a couple concepts we're going to work in from last week. All summer long, we've been talking about the PI process: pencil, ink, and erase. So I'm always going to start with my pencil, and then I'll bring in an inking tool, and I'll go over my pencil lines, and then I'll clean it up with an eraser, right? So we'll keep that on our desk here. I'll keep it on my desk at least to remind me. We also have this wonderful toolbox we're going to use today. So we're going to work into all our artwork. As we pencil, we'll work in faces, actions, setting, and text, and we'll talk about that and how it all fits in. We're also going to do a review live draw Tuesday evening to go over some of this stuff and see it in action. So you're welcome to join us for that too. And you could just draw along today, and we'll see what happens. So as always, I'm taking some standard size paper. For me, standard size is 8.5 by 11. Some of us like to draw an 11 by 17. If you have a sketchbook that's a different size, that's fine. We're going to start off, at least this summer, just using whatever paper you can get your hands on. So I happen to have this is actually nice cream colored standard copier or printer paper. And I'm using just a plain old pencil. I have a little hand desktop pencil sharpener here. Where is it? There it is. So when my pencil gets a little dull, I'll just sharpen it up and we're good to go. And that's really all you need to create amazing comics all summer long, plus your inking tool, I suppose, but we'll get into that later. All right. So to start off, another thing we've been talking about over the course of the first couple weeks of camp is taking a page like this. I'll slide those down. Taking a page like this and actually tracing lightly around the outside of the page. I'm going to move my clipboard because I don't think I need that. Clipboards are really handy to use if you're on the move or if you want to be able to pick up and draw anywhere. But I think I'm good with just a piece of paper here. All right, so let's trace carefully, but kind of quickly down each side of this page. Right? See that light pencil line there? That gives me a little buffer zone. It just reminds me not to draw right to the edge of the page. And that'll come into play later on in the summer. But I always set up every page I draw on the same way. Now, if you don't like to draw lines freehand, or if you don't like the idea of a wavy line, you can always get your hands on a ruler, right? And you can take that ruler, and on every side of this piece of paper, I can slide that ruler over and give myself a light little border there. That actually looks much neater, doesn't it? Let me go over here on this side. I'm a righty, so I don't like to have my hands crossed when I'm using the ruler. So I'll slide this ruler over and I'll make a line just parallel with that side of the piece of paper. And you should be able to see now. It's a little hard to see on the screen, but you can see how all 4 sides of this paper have that warning line there. And I'm only going to draw my picture inside that rectangle. I won't draw it outside there. Anything that goes outside, I'll assume will get cut off of my picture. When I put my artwork into mini comic books or into graphic novels, that really comes into play. And if we're thinking about it from the start, then great. We can use this page in any kind of production we want to do with our artwork. All right, so I'm going to keep it fairly simple today. Just to as a recap, last week we were talking about eyeballs, right? So we drew a lot of eyeballs. We learned how to put the little spot in there and maybe leave a white circle inside the black spot so it kind of gleams at you. And then we added legs. You can add arms. We kept it super simple, right? And you can do lots of stories Like this happens to be an eyeball with an enormous hat. You can do lots of crazy stories just with simple, simple characters like that, right? You give them lots of details that really bring out character, and then you can have adventures with them. Send them off up mountains. I don't know. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. So I'm coming to this page. What was our theme this? Oh, yeah. This week is monsters and bunnies. So I'd like to draw 2 pages actually with you. One's going to be a scary monster, and one's going to be a very unscary bunny. And that combination will be, well, we'll see what happens with that kind of a combination. So first, I'm kind of in a monster mood. So I'm thinking this page will introduce a monster. Now I'm going from my eyeball week, I'm still thinking eyeballs. So I'm going to keep this super simple, and then I'll add in some details. And you can draw along at home and create whatever kind of monster you want. There's lots of different ways to draw monsters. I had this idea of a monster that is like a big eyeball. So I'm going to put that kind of front and center in this page. I'll create a circle. I can round it out a little bit. This is what I love about penciling, is I don't have to get it perfect the first time around. I can then go back and say, no to that line, yes to this line, maybe to that line. And I can kind of be tentative. It's not set in stone at all. So if my monster has like a giant eyeball for a head, maybe the body comes down this way. I don't really exactly know what the body's going to be. I think it's going to be like this looks kind of like, I don't know, something about giant eyeballs is kind of cute. So this might be kind of a semi-cute, semi-scary monster. One of the things that I like to do, especially with monsters I'm drawing for the first time, is if I give them like a big flowing cape, then I don't have to figure out their body just yet. So what if we have a cape that's like, here's the monster's neck, the cape goes off this way. Maybe it kind of drapes down. And maybe there's like a big, like those vampire collars, you know, that Dracula has. Maybe it's a collar that comes up around the eyeball to kind of frame the eyeball. And if I connect those corners, but then I erase that line, let's see how that looks. Does that look like a continuous cape? Looks like an eyeball in a bowl, doesn't it? Let's give it a little bit of maybe like a jagged top or a detail on the top. Something that makes it look kind of monstrous and interesting. I'm thinking a monster with a giant eyeball for a head, and we'll put a mouth and stuff on there. This would probably be a wizard monster, because wizard monsters have to read a lot. Let's do the cape coming down on this side. They have to read a lot. They have to study a lot. I kind of want that cape to overlap the body. And let's erase the body and see how that looks. That's looking good. Now you notice I'm leaving space down here. I'm going to decide whether I put the feet down there, or it's riding something, or it doesn't have feet and it's floating. We'll see. This is a totally bizarre monster. I've never drawn this kind of a monster before. If this were just a giant eyeball and I put the spot in the center, I'm not even going to black it in. When I black it in, I'll use my inking pen. For now, I can just sort of scribble that dark. If I do that, it's looking straight at you. See how it's looking straight at me here? If I move that spot to either side, it's going to be looking, if I move it this way, it's looking that, but that, maybe as it turns, what was our test? We took an eyeball. You always have an eyeball. I always have an eyeball here near the desk. And as it turns, I see a little less of that circle. It's not really a circle, is it? It's a circle when it's looking at me, and it gets kind of flattened when it turns. So maybe I can get that effect by flattening that circle a little bit. Oh yeah, that makes it look like it's going out that way. But I just had an idea. Instead of feet, what if there's like a table with a book of magic down here? And this is a studying wizard eyeball. So that means I'll have to bring this spot down and forward a little bit. And I can make it a little longer than a circle. Let's leave like 1 or 2 circles for white in there. And then maybe, oh, this could be the detailed eyeball with a black spot in the center. And then maybe like if we end up coloring this, we can color it green or orange or red or whatever it needs to be. Oh, this is looking good. I'm thinking this is the kind of monster, maybe it's not just a big bare eyeball, but it actually has like an eyelid curving around, and then underneath here, it'll curve around this way. It's like a space helmet sort of effect, like the visor. Instead of eyelashes, I kind of think this monster has like these wiggly tentacles coming off of there. That looks kind of cool. And maybe wiggly tentacles coming off of here too. I'm thinking there's not really room for a mouth, so maybe this is the kind of creepy monster that you can't see any mouth. Maybe there's a mouth under there. I'll just put some wrinkles, but we can't really see if there's a mouth or not. Or maybe it has a scarf wrapped around it. Ooh, I like the idea of monsters who get cold, who have fashion sense. Let's see if we can wrap a scarf around that neck. We'll make it a nice striped scarf. There we go. That's looking good. Of course, if it's a scarf, it should have like a little hangy down fringe end, right? Oh, now wearing a scarf, that makes it already look like this monster's in a very cold environment. So let's see. Maybe it's in, oh, so my idea was, I'm going to put a table here. Now I could have kept this much more simple, huh? Let me just try drawing this monster stick figure style. This would be like big eye, maybe just lines for those eyelash tentacles. Let's do this collar. Let's practice it. Maybe the cape just hangs down and has like bat bottoms, like Batman's cape, and maybe like an opening for it. And maybe that's all you see as this monster like glides through the corridors of the wizard's palace that it lives in. Maybe it's just like this eyeball and a cape. I kind of like that. But here we have a little more detail with that scarf. You can keep it as simple as you want. You can do it stick figure style. I'm thinking instead of arms, I like these tentacle eyelashes and how they kind of drizzle on the face. What if instead of arms, this monster had like a tentacle, even with a curl at the end, and another tentacle here? And then what did we say? If this monster's sitting at the table, and the cape goes, maybe this cape comes further up like that. Oh yeah, that cape kind of slouches over the shoulders, doesn't it? You kind of find this out as you draw the monster. So this monster is slouching at a table, reading something. I bet it's I was thinking a wizard monster. So maybe if I can get a book in front of me. Now, let me see if I can grab a book, like say my sketchbook, and open it up. We were drawing some faces before. It's going to have two rectangles in it and then sort of a cover there underneath. Okay, so I'm going to go for that effect, two sort of angled rectangles. And we'll just kind of keep it simple and put some mystical monster writing in it. So I'll do one rectangle coming down. It'll go under that tentacle. And then if I want it to look like a big book, I can kind of curve the sides a little bit, can't I? I'll have to curve them under the tentacle there. Let me erase some of these pencil lines. That's the first page of the book. And if I want it to kind of come up, I can curve it up like this. That makes it look like the pages are a little curled, a little out of control. Maybe this one curves even more. And we'll put some other pages under it, curving like that, right? And then I'll step back and I'll take a look at it, right? Let me see here. This page, does this side look like it's up higher than this side? Sometimes if I sort of look at it from a different angle, squint my eyes a little, I'll catch something that I didn't notice when I drew it. Let's bring this side down a little bit. There we go. Oh, I'll erase some of these test lines that are now covered up with tentacles. That's looking better. Aw, it's kind of a cute wizard monster. poring over this book. Now, if I wanted to write something in the book, I would probably have to flip it upside down like this so I could write words like that, how to, and then when I turn it over, it's right side up for the monster. I tend not to try to write things upside down like that. I'm not sure what this book is. I think it's a spell book, but I still don't know. I have to discover that. And I find sometimes I get ideas, sometimes I just let the characters decide. So I'm going to leave that out for now. I'm thinking, though, if it is a wizard monster, he's going to be, he or she will be surrounded by like jars. I like drawing this in laboratories. And these jars, maybe I can put a jar there, a different shaped jar here, and you can see through them, and they have corks in them. And because you can see through them, you can see what's inside them. And I have to decide what's inside them. So what would a wizard monster have in a bunch of jars? Probably like specimens of creepy crawly things, like giant centipedes. Oh, like maybe they're alive, maybe they're dried out, I don't know. This one kind of looks alive, doesn't it? That one kind of looks alive. Maybe like some unspecified thing that's kind of furry and shaggy and has spikes. Not sure what's in that jar. And maybe like some kind of bubbly something or other. Oh, those aren't bubbles. They're like other little eyeballs swimming around in some kind of eyeball solution. I love discovering these things in this monster's laboratory. I have a little space up here, but I think that's like a wall, like stones in a castle. Maybe I can fit like a window coming down, because this monster would want to have some light. So there's a shape of a window. And then this is a thick stone wall. So we'll do like the side of the stone to the edge of the window and maybe a line connecting those. So this can be kind of shaded. Maybe this will all be black. Maybe there's like spider webs in here. I have to watch my time too, because we were also going to draw a, what was it? A bunny, right? So I don't want to spend all my time on the monster and then shortchange the bunny. So let's switch over in a moment to a bunny rabbit. And then we can, if we get ideas for what's like hanging on the wall, posters, or maybe there's a candle in here. Let's go draw the bunny rabbit and we'll get an idea for that. I'm just thinking this window, monster windows usually are small paned. Monsters don't have great glass industries in their cities. So maybe there's a couple small lines, or maybe this wizard monster is studying while imprisoned in a dungeon or something. We'll decide that later. We'll come back later and decide. Maybe there's another monster here. Who knows? All right, so there's our first penciled idea for a page, and I'm kind of intrigued. This monster doesn't look all that menacing. It actually looks kind of intelligent and whimsical. And maybe it's studying and learning something that I would want to learn about too. That's the thing about monsters. Monsters get really interesting, as do our next guest, our next subject, the bunny rabbit. So let's shift gears. I'm going to take a blank sheet of paper. I don't recommend drawing artwork on both sides, even though I'm sketching on both sides here. I'm only going to ink on one side because that ink will bleed through the paper from time to time, and I don't want to lose all the work I did. So I'll keep my monster right here. I'm going to slide in another piece of paper. I'm still thinking of pencil ink erase. I'm still thinking of, well, let's check our toolbox. Did I include a face in this picture? Yeah, well, I guess if a giant eyeball is a face with no mouth, then yeah, I guess I did. Something that can look back at you, right? Is it doing an action? That is, I would say, this is a picture of a giant eyeball wizard. This is a picture of a giant eyeball wizard doing something, right? That's the test for action. Whatever you see it doing here, that's the action. Setting details, well, we put the window in and the jars. I think that adds to the setting, and the spider web. We'll add to that more. Text. Oh, I didn't include any text. But let's move on and we'll come to that. It's not like you have to use all 4 of these tools, but when you mix them, like a face with an action in a setting, that's where stories start forming, whether you know the story or not. So we'll keep our monster wizard side by side with us as we delve into the world of the bunny rabbit. So here's another blank page. I'm going to go on this blank page and I'm going to put my margins on. I'll do that a little darker this time so you can see it. The margin to protect my artwork from the cruel, heartless edge of the page. If I draw right to the edge, I find I tend to lose important details in my artwork. So I'll go all the way around this page, all 4 sides, protect my artwork from that cruel edge, and I'll be much happier with the result. It also creates like this frame. I don't know about you, but when I look at a page like this is a page of comics, of artwork, an intentional page. When I look at this, that's just a blank piece of paper, right? There's a huge difference. This has like a window into a story for me. All right, so let's move this monster over into the shadows for now, and we'll focus on our bunny rabbit. So the bunny rabbit, well, what makes a, let's do a quick test here. What makes a character a bunny rabbit? Well, I'm a big fan of stick figures. And any stick figure, as you probably know, can quickly become a bunny rabbit just with the addition of ears. Oh yes, and a cottontail. And you may find it's a little more satisfying with that little nose and the line down to the mouth. But I find a lot of character comes out of these bunny rabbits. Now you could maybe bring the ears out to the side and do the same sort of details. You might find as you draw bunny rabbits too, that they get a little, shall we say, roly-poly. Maybe we can even get away with, yeah, that's also, for my cartooning eye, that's kind of a fun round ball bunny rabbit. Anyways, let's think about bunny rabbits and contrast too, because our monster was kind of prickly and starey and tentacly. So maybe we want this bunny rabbit to be, again, to have a face, definitely, to be doing something in a setting, maybe with text. And we want this bunny rabbit to look really different from the monster. So I'm thinking let's do the bunny rabbit a little smaller, maybe like this big. That was like the size of the monster's eyeball, but this will be the size of our bunny rabbit here. And your bunny rabbit, if you're drawing a bunny rabbit along with me, you can use these same tools in different ways and come up with a totally different picture. This is just an example. I'm kind of showing you how I think as a cartoonist, thinking on the page. I tend not to, I don't have my best ideas in my head. I have my most interesting ideas, for me at least, happen on the page as I draw. So my monster, my bunny rabbit's going to be kind of round and about that size, and then I'll have lots of room for settings, and that'll make the monster seem bigger than the bunny rabbit, which is always an interesting tension. And I'm thinking maybe this will be like a head there, a body, a roly-poly body here, maybe feet coming down here. I kind of like the look of the monster. I used a cape to kind of hide the monster and figure out what it was doing from there. Maybe this bunny can have sort of a blouse. Oh, I have an idea already from something that happened to me. So I'll put sort of a blouse on my bunny. I'll definitely put the ears, nice big ears for this bunny. And already, see, I'm already ignoring some of these lines because I'm not drawing a giant egg, I'm drawing a bunny rabbit. So I'll shape it now. It's like I'm sculpting it down. And this is cartooning, right? I'm not drawing, figure drawing. Maybe I'll give this bunny, maybe this bunny's in like a dress with little feet peeking out. There we go. And maybe this bunny is reaching out. Here's the idea I had. So I'm going to put an arm there, and that's a ragged sleeve. This is a bunny in like a, well, you'll see what kind of costume. Maybe just a couple buttons down the front. And let's give this bunny a hand. And I'm a cartoonist, so I like to do just bump, 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 and I'm done with the hand. I'm not going to overthink it too much. And in that hand, we will put a little line. That's a double line. And maybe if I put on the end of that line this tool that I was just using outside. Now, sometimes I'll show that to a reader and they'll say like, oh, it's a broom. They're sweeping the floor or something. And I'm actually going for a rake. But if you see it as a tool, something similar to that, I think the setting details will help you see what it is. If I give just a flat floor here and dust, dots for dust, that becomes a broom or something. If we do like growing plants in a garden, that'll become a rake. It's cool how the settings and the actions and the faces and the text all work together to help you understand the story. Let's move this arm up. Here's the feeling that I was going for. I'm just going to curve it around. This is cartoony, so this bunny's arms don't even have elbows. They just kind of curve. 2, 3, 4. I guess I'm doing 4 bumps on the hands. And I love when I can just kind of bend the arm, draw bumps for hands, and it still looks alive. Like it still looks like a living character if I don't overthink it too much. Let's give this bunny, I kind of like the eyes spread apart, little dot eyes, just to keep it simple and for contrast from this complicated wizard eye here. Maybe just a little bunny nose and the line coming down to the mouth. Now, if I do like a big smile, oh, this bunny looks so friendly. Doesn't it look like they just like looked up and maybe they're waving to a friend they see in the distance or something? Now watch this. If I come in and I take that smile out and I change that mouth, now it looks like they're looking into the distance, thinking something or seeing something worrying, like a wizard monster coming in the distance. Or, what if I make that mouth into something like this? Oh, it's like they just thought of something. See how the action is changing just by the facial details? I love that. I'm going to put, because this is clearly a pretty hot day, I'm going to put a little bandana on this bunny and we'll tie it off with a knot there. All right. And maybe we'll put some sweat beads. This bunny is working hard, sweeping the floor or growing the garden. I almost had the feeling I should bring these feet down and make them longer, but I kind of like this bunny being short and being in among the plants of the garden. Now let's make it a garden rather than a floor they're sweeping. So we went from that egg shape showing us roughly, you see that line from our egg shape we started with? It's roughly giving us the region that bunny's in. So it gave me a place to draw into, sort of like making the margin line around the edges, right? So my character's in there and little bits can stick out, tools, the ears, the sweat beads, but then I'll erase those, clear it up, and it's in more complicated shape than the egg, but it's basically just a head, a body, legs, or in this case, a dress. Now, we said we were going to create a setting of maybe a garden. Let's keep it really simple. Let's give it some rows, but we'll make the rows going across, just like we did with the table for the wizard monster. Remember I said a table, but then I just drew a line going across? If you see that as a table, that saves me a lot of time. I don't have to draw the edges and the legs. And if you see it as a counter or a shelf, that's fine too. So let's do the same thing with this garden. We'll give this bunny rabbit a couple rows. Maybe they're in the middle of a row. Maybe there's like one more row back there. And then maybe just beyond that, we'll do some of that grass that I saw some campers drawing in week 1. I think Little Puzzle Art was drawing grass like this, and some different artists were doing stand-up, nice fat green grass, maybe some flowers. And this is a totally different setting. So I have a really different character, really different setting, really different action. All the details change. Now, what's growing in this garden? I'm thinking, oh, well, look at the action of this bunny rabbit. Either they're really surprised by something, or they just thought of something, or maybe change the facial details. Maybe they're feeling like really sunstroked and really hot there. So let's see. We'll add this to the setting. We'll add a nice big sun in there. Maybe some heat lines radiating off of it. What else would happen? If it's a really sunny day and that sunshine is really, really strong, then this bunny's going to cast a really dark shadow, right? So there will definitely be, we'll come in with, well, not even with an inking pen. You know what I'll use? I'll use my marker to ink a nice, heavy, dark shadow on the ground around this bunny. Now these setting details, plus the face details, plus the action, those hopefully all add up to a certain feeling of environment. Telling a story here. I have a feeling this bunny's been working all day long, trying to get this garden to grow, but maybe there's a problem. Maybe instead of growing like up like this, the way they should be, maybe a couple plants are growing up. We'll put them in their rows. These look like maybe young spinach plants, but maybe a bunch of them are like wilting down. Oh, I'm using the same skill I used to draw wriggling tentacle eyelashes to draw wilting spinach. Same skill, same cartooning skill. And maybe, how could I draw your attention to it? You think this will look really clear to the reader? If these plants are all flat on the ground like this, or maybe I need to draw like a zzz, zzz coming off of them, zzz, zzz, like a little suspiring, wilting sound or feeling. Or maybe they just get black into a crisp. Oh, that looks really striking. And maybe there's like flies flying around. Or no, even the flies would be would be clunked on the ground and out of energy if it's a really hot day. All right. Oh, I just had an idea. If it's a really hot day, this bunny rabbit's going to need to do something for this garden. They're going to need to go get some water. So let's put a bucket back here. And that will be our last setting detail. It'll kind of lead the reader off to the next page. So I'm just going to do sort of a flattened circle. I'll bring the ends down. This is an old-fashioned stave bucket, so I put the little lines along it, the wooden staves, and then we'll just put two slightly curved lines to hold the staves together. And maybe we shade the inside. Oh no, it would be shaded on that side, wouldn't it? The sunlight would shine into that side. Well, we won't keep it. We'll keep it as simple as we can. Maybe like a little loop for the bunny to carry. And there we go. There's a bucket. I guess I'll move this flower then. So now we have the sun shining down, the bunny feeling hot, and there's a bucket, and that kind of hints at what's going to happen next. So what I'm really doing with both of these is I'm creating characters who have faces, who are doing actions, who are in settings. I haven't put any text in yet, and they're about to go do something else, go do something else, and that's where the story comes from. This is really fun. Oh, I just have an idea. Hold on a sec. So this bunny rabbit needs to get some water. They're going to have to go get the bucket, go to the well or the river or something, get some water for their plants to save their garden. What does the monster wizard need? I just had an idea for this. What was it? All right, I'm erasing this little assistant. We can always add the assistant in later. Maybe we'll put the assistant over on this side. I kind of like a cute little assistant. There we go. All right, we'll just keep that assistant in the mix. Maybe they have like little gremlin horns. Okay. And this right here, this is going to be the clue for what this monster needs. We'll put another jar. So I'm going to do like a flattened circle and then two lines going off and then another curve, sort of like another flattened circle there. But then we'll erase here. Now that jar isn't just floating in there. I'm going to move this tentacle. I suppose maybe a wizard would float jars in the air, but I think this one picks up jars with these wonderful, I like drawing tentacles. So let's see, maybe this tentacle comes around like this. Just keep it simple. I could wiggle it a little too, I suppose, to make it more tentacular. All right, erasing my pencil lines. Or maybe, you know what? That doesn't look quite right, does it? Let's try that again, but let's bring the tentacle around behind the jar. Live and learn, right? Okay, here's our jar. Let's bring that tentacle around behind. It can even hide behind the jar, and then it comes around like this. That looks a little better. The other way, it looked kind of just too flat, but here, doesn't it kind of look like it's shaking that jar? And what's falling out? Nothing. The jar is empty. And what should be in this jar? Let's give it sort of a rim there. And we'll put the cork over here. There we go. What should be in that jar? Let's see. I'm thinking it should connect with this. Maybe it's rabbit feet. Something kind of creepy for a rabbit. Remember my old trick, if I'm going to write a label on the jar of the book, I'll turn it over like this, and I'll put that label on there. And I might sort of curve the writing to fit the curve of the jar, so I'll give myself some guidelines. Rabbit feet. And I'll put a little label on there. All right, let's see how that looks. Rabbit feet, the jar is empty. Maybe just some little hairs or something. The wizard monster is shaking it, looking concerned. And maybe here, maybe these pages are just covered with like scrawl of monster script, which I can't read. I don't know about you, but wizard monsters have very arcane writing. So maybe I'll just improvise some scribbledy monster script in there as if they're reading a spell. And we'll do this tentacle pointing right to the ingredients of the spell. And they're shaking the jar. And here we have possibly a story to tell. We have a wizard monster who has a problem. They need something for this spell. And we have a bunny who has a problem. They're going to need to go take that bucket and go get water. And next thing we'll show is each of them heading out on a quest to solve their problem. And I'm not sure what's going to happen, but they just might meet. So one of the things, I think what I'll do is I'll ink these as a live draw surprise session. You can follow the Facebook and accounts like that from my website. And I'll find some time to come on and ink it, and we'll show people what we're working on that way. And you can comment and make suggestions too, because I'm sure there's ways that you may have thought of to bring stories out of these pictures that I'm just learning. One of the things that I posted over on the Comics Camp Clubhouse and in the Patreon, I'll post this too, for week 3 for Monsters and Bunnies week, is I'm trying this out. I posted suggested daily goals. So this is a printable that you can download and print from the Clubhouse and from Patreon. And you draw at your own pace, find an hour each day to draw, and you'll do great. Suggested daily goals. This will walk you through the week and show you one way you could be working this week. So Monday, that's today, 1 to 2 splash pages to intro different characters. Well, that's exactly what we're doing here in these live draws. And yours probably looks super different from mine. I hope you have some different monsters that you're working on too, and different bunnies, or maybe not even bunnies, maybe totally different animals. But we'll pencil, ink, erase those. And tomorrow, Tuesday, we'll do 1 to 2 more pages showing your characters starting out on a quest. See, that's my plan. I'll show 1 page of the bunny starting out on a quest for water, and 1 page of our strange eyeball monster starting out maybe to the grocery store, the monster grocery store, to get rabbit feet. And then come Wednesday, show what happens when your characters meet. See where we're going with this? So we'll create a story out of just these penciled, scribbled, doodled ideas. And if you want to see what that looks like, I actually have here, I was going to flash these too. Remember this from week 2. You can go onto our week 2 page on the Clubhouse or in Patreon, and you can find the Monday live draw where we drew all these eyeballs. And then the Tuesday or Wednesday, the second live draw of the week, we kept the place the same, and then we changed the characters around, and we found that the clowns were digging down into a cave, and that gave us our idea for the next page and so on. Now, I have 6 pages of this story drawn so far. And this was the one inspired by Thomas Cole's paintings that we showed on Saturday. This is all in the Clubhouse and on the Patreon. You can watch all these live draws. So I'm going to be taking this week these 6 pages and starting to turn them into a mini comic book. And I'll post a little how-to of my process for doing that. And then by the end of the week, if you follow, where's my little suggested goals? If you follow these suggested goals, you'll have 1 to 2 pages, plus 1 to 2 pages, plus 1 to 2 pages here or there. You'll have about 6 pages by the end of the week, or maybe more. So that's why I put out these suggested goals. If you want to, by the end of the week, if you want to have a mini comic ready to self-publish, next week, week 4, we're going to be talking about mini comics and all about them and publishing a lot of them. So in closing, what were my announcements in closing? Another welcome to our new campers, Kimball Jenkins Art Camps and others. And there was one other thing I had to tell you. What was it? Oh, yeah. So one thing that I suggest you do when you are done penciling, inking, erasing a page, where's my pie? Once you've penciled, inked, and erased a page, you can clear your desk and you can take a little snapshot of that page, right? Get right over it, take a snapshot, and then you can post that snapshot. And I put up the tags, @me, post it. I've seen some really cool artwork from Comics Campers, and I'm giving everybody constructive, positive, helpful feedback. And we can talk about your work. I'll also share it with other Comics Campers, and you'll see it's amazing the ideas that other people get when they look at your artwork. It's so cool for all of us. So I'll post a link to how to take snapshots of your artwork when it's done. I have some guidelines on that. And then we'll see you out on the Clubhouse and in patreon.com. And definitely join us Tuesday evening for a little review and launch of our 2 characters into their quests. So you can always find the links at the Clubhouse and at the Patreon. Wonderful to draw with everybody today. Thank you so much. This has been such great fun these past couple weeks, getting into the swing with Comics Camp Online. Let me know how it's going for you. Give me feedback. I always like to hear from you. And if anything's confusing, then let me know, because probably you're not the only one, and we'll fix it. But keep it up, folks. Keep up the awesome artwork. Keep in touch. And we will see you soon. Good luck with your monsters and bunnies. Ooh.